Hey, that was a long one.
That was more than 15 seconds.
Welcome, everybody to Winephabet Street, where the letter of the day is O, and we are going to be talking Orange Muscat, and we have a very special guest with us today, Andrew Quady, and from Quady Winery, and we are excited to be learning about this. Deb and I are actually in the same time zone, although not together. One of these days we're going to do that. So we are not. We are in the same time zone. Andrew is over on the West Coast, and we are excited to have him here. So hi, Andrew.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. So today we are talking about Orange Muscat, and it is a grape that I've had once or twice. I'm not very experienced in it, so I am thrilled to have Andrew here to guide us through the education aspect of this grape. And for those of you who do not know me, I am Lori. I am a WSET Level 2 Spanish wine scholar, champagne specialist, Côte d'Aron specialist on service, and winemaker in Paso. And a little plug for Dresita Wines. We just got named to top 30 wines in Paso for the 21 vintage, top rosé wines in Paso, and our Cinnabari got top Bordeaux blends in Paso. Nice. So it's been a pretty good run for us in this last couple of weeks. So Deb?
I'm Debbie Giaquindo. I'm known as a Hudson Valley wine goddess. I'm a wine writer, a wine blogger, a certified specialist of wine location specialist in Port and Champagne, and a certified sherry wine specialist. I'm author of a book called Tapping the Hudson Valley, Day Trips and Weekend Itineraries Visiting the Hudson Valley Wine Region. And I'm partner in a restaurant in North Wildwood, New Jersey called Trio North Wildwood. And we are open through New Year's Eve, and then we close down for 3 months, and I get to do some R&R and hopefully some travel. And maybe coming out to see you, Patty. And then we open up again in March. And Andrew, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my wife and I, we have a winery here in Madera, California, close to Fresno. And we started this back in 76. 77 was our first vintage here. I have a background in engineering, and I was working also at the big winery next door to me, which is Constellation Brands. Before that, I worked for a winery in Lodi, and before that, I was going to school at UC Davis. I got my master's degree there in food science, specializing in wine. And but my education before that was in chemical engineering. And so I escaped from that into wine in the early 70s. And it's been a lot of fun. It's great. And we ended up in Madera when I changed jobs from the Lodi winery to come to work here. And we had we put up a winery behind our house, a little baby winery, and made wine there on evenings and weekends when I had some spare time from the other job. So at one point we were introduced to this grape variety that most people had never heard of before, called Orange Muscat. Actually, when I was a student at Davis, all the students in the course, one of the courses I was taking, had to make a wine out of Orange Muscat because the UC had a very small, I think maybe a dozen of these Orange Muscat grapevines, and so we had more than that. But in any case, there was enough for people to make a little wine as an experiment. And I don't believe that anybody was very excited about it, what they made from the UC Davis vineyard that year. But in any case, I was making California port in my little backyard winery, and the local viticulture expert, they work for the state of California, agricultural attache or something like that. He said he met me one day, and he wanted to let me know that a couple of farmers from Kerman, a little town near us, had purchased a vineyard, a very large vineyard, 2,000 acres. And in the middle of this vineyard, there had been a plot of grapes that they didn't know what it was. And they called this agricultural extensionist grape person over to figure out what it was. And he determined it was this grape called Orange Muscat. And he wanted to tell me about it because I was I had my port business going, and he thought, well, maybe I'd like to do a sweet white wine, you see, because a Muscat was a white grape, and this was a white grape. And so we did. We experimented with this variety, and a few years later, we came out with a wine called Essentia, which became a big hit. And actually, it became such a big hit that I was able to leave my day job and just, actually, Laurel, my wife, I have to give her credit. We could live off what she made. So the little winery that we had going was sort of a hobby, but we built it into a business over the years. And the Essentia had a lot to do with that. It was a grape that once you tasted the grape, and especially if you tasted the wines, if they had some skin contact, they actually picked up an orangey color. Even though the skins were green, the wine would come out slight orangey, yellowy, very attractive, sort of golden look to it. And the wine would smell like a mixture of oranges and apricots. This was sort of special because nobody in California was doing anything with the variety then. And I was the first. And I showed it to a friend of mine who had a restaurant. He was a chef in Los Angeles. He owned a restaurant. And he was a friend of mine, and we were both fans of port. So I showed him my new wine, and he got very excited about it. He was also an artist in his spare time from being a chef, and he created the label, which Patty was showing it up on the bottle a few minutes ago, with a lot of orange on it, because he thought with a name like that, he had to put a lot of orange on the label. So that's where the label came from. And it sort of
Debbie,
shows,
you want to just show that again?
Yeah.
Debbie, you want to just show that again?
Yeah, it shows, isn't that neat?
It's a beautiful label.
It was one of those type of an artist that likes to throw the paint on the canvas and create something interesting. And he was that kind of an artist, and that's what he did. So, so that's where we got started.
That's great.
All right. And I'm like, we have to have a conversation off camera about the food science thing. I got to get Mike up there, and we got to visit you in person so we can all geek out on food science. Because small world, food science, you don't hear that all the time. So we are going to we're going to get into the conversation, but first it's Elmo time.
You got it?
All right. Elmo.
Never a dull moment.
Did it not go through?
I don't think it went.
Okay, there we go.
That's okay.
You didn't,
Okay,
it played on my end. You didn't hear it?
Yeah, completely? Okay.
I could hear it. I heard all the alphabet noise. Right. It
Okay.
was very,
Okay.
very cute.
So
what do you want to talk about
we
now?
try a
About
little
Orange
cuter.
Muscat. We could, you know
All
what?
right.
First,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, Lori.
Nope. Andrew's got something to say. We're going to let him say what he wants to say.
So, so this is an unusual, well, first of all, the whole family of Muscat grapes is fascinating. For one thing, it was fairly recent that people became aware of the fact that there's more than one grape called that's a Muscat grape. There are different, very distinctive differences between the different varieties of Muscat. But when you go to a winery that makes, in Europe especially, when you go to a winery that has a Muscat wine and you ask them what kind of grape it's made from, it's called Muscat. That's what they say. So in Italy, they say it's Muscat, but they're using the Muscat, Moscato Bianco, right? If you go to Spain and you say, what grape are you using for your Muscat? And they say, it's the Muscat. But their Muscat is called the Muscat of Alexandria. And I believe in...
Are they the same grapes?
No, these are different varieties, see? Except that they do have... The local name is oftentimes Muscat, right? But the correct name has another word attached to it, like Moscato Bianco, see? And the Orange Muscat, turns out, came from Italy. And it came from a little tiny part of Italy called the Colli Ugani, which is halfway between Venice and Verona. And people that don't come from there or live there are always amazed when they say that there's another grape in Italy besides the Moscato Bianco. And there's this Moscato Fior d'Arancio is what they call it there. And they use it to make a bubbly, sweet wine, which is served with weddings. And a lot of people go to Colli Ugani to have their weddings there. And when they do, it's a very pretty area. And they have this wine with it.
Okay.
So
Deb, I'm sorry. Can you just hold the bottle up for another second?
Sure.
So let it get into focus. Is it my eyes or is that spelled with a K?
Oh, it's spelled with Essentia. Is the name? It's a fancy name.
M-U-S-C-A. No, it says C-A-T.
Okay, it's just my eyes. Okay.
Muscat.
Okay.
M-U-S-C-A-T. Right. No K.
Okay. I thought it was a different spelling that I should be wearing glasses. Okay.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah. So Andrew, to go back, you're talking about, just to bring it back, because I took you offline, you're talking about the different Muscats that are out there. And although they're all called Muscats, they're different varieties?
Yeah, they're different grape varieties. Right. The Muscat is a family of grapes. So at our winery, we grow 3 Muscat grape varieties with the Orange Muscat. There's a variety called the Muscat Hamburg, which has a black skin, and it's a really, really delicious grape. It's oftentimes in Europe, it's grown as a table fruit. They just eat it by the, by the grapes. They don't make wine out of it, but we make wine out of it, a red wine with a sort of a rose-like aroma to it. And then, so there's that one, the Orange Muscat, and then the third one we make is the what in California is known as Muscat Canelli, but that's the same as the Italian one, the Moscato Bianco.
All right.
The one that is most widely planted in California is the Muscat of Alexandria, which is the one that came here from Spain. So we don't use that one much.
So what is the Muscat that's in here? What Muscat variety?
That's the Orange Muscat. It's over 75% Orange Muscat, and there's a little bit of the Muscat Canelli or the Moscato Bianco in there as well.
So how does each of the Muscat grapes differ?
Well, the Orange Muscat is the only one that has this orange flavor,
Okay.
sort of an orange apricot, okay?
Mhm.
The Muscat Hamburg is the only one that smells like roses. And the Moscato Bianco, in our region of the world, it starts to smell like peaches. So they're all unique, and they're all sort of have a floral characteristic, flowers and fruit. And that is the reason why most places, winemakers make these into sweet wines.
So are
So-
these actual individual varieties, or are these clones or subspecies? So
they're called varieties, you know.
okay, so
The-
they're distinct enough.
Yeah, the species of grapes that we use is called Vitis vinifera,
Mhm.
and Vitis vinifera is the species, and then Cabernet Sauvignon, Pinot Noir, you know, Orange Muscat, Muscat Canelli, whatever. Those are varieties.
So they are distinct enough. They're not clones of each other.
No, you know, there are
Okay.
a lot of. There's like if you talk about Chardonnay, you have 5 clones of Chardonnay or something like
Right.
that. But these are varieties.
Oh, okay.
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 To get the same plant though, if you want to put them in a whole vineyard, you have to use cuttings, right? You can't, because if you plant a grape seed, you never know what you're going to get. Like you could plant all the grape seeds of Cabernet Sauvignon you want, and you won't get one plant that's Cabernet Sauvignon.
So, yeah, right. I try to explain that in a tasting room to people, like, well, can I just take this seed and, plant it? Like, well, you could, but.
So grapevines, it turns out, have some of the most complex, apparently, genetics of any plant. And see, there's a lot of plants that the seed comes out exactly like the parent. Not in grapes. Every one is a unique individual. It's more like humans or something like that. So it's sort of not that common in the plant world, but that's the way it is.
So I have a question. This is what the wine looks like in the glass. When you press it, does it come out this color, or does it sit on the skins at all?
What happens when you press it is the grapes are green when you pick them. They're not yellow like that.
Okay.
And apparently it's the oxygen in the air does something to the phenolics that are in that grape that cause that golden color to come up.
Okay.
Okay.
So the juice changes to that color. You don't buy that. Well, what we do is we have some skin contact to get more of that orange flavor in the wine before we press the grapes. So we give them like a day or two of skin contact. And
okay.
then the wine gets yellower and yellower. By the time we get it, we give it some age in French oak barrels. And then by the time it comes out of the barrels, it's pretty yellow, nice golden looking.
Okay. So we want to dive deeper into Orange Muscat, but we want to learn a little bit more about you first. So as we were hunting around the web, it actually said you used to produce explosives. So like, did you make like TNT? Was it fireworks? Like,
Were you a road runner?
I've never known anybody who actually makes explosives, so it's kind of cool.
The fireworks business really did drive me to drink, and I wanted to get out of that. I was in this unusual category of fireworks called military pyrotechnics, and we made decoys for heat-seeking missiles.
Yeah.
I developed an underwater flare, some parachute flares that you would shoot up a mortar into the air, and a parachute would open up, and the flare would hang from the chute and put out this, infrared radiation that would attract the heat-seeking missiles. We also had mortars that would have a little rocket attached to them, so you could shoot the mortar up in the sky and the rocket would start and it propel the mortar shell higher than normally would, and then it would explode and the parachute would come out with a flare. So, and we made, the other product we made was a kind of a firecracker that fishermen used. They would throw them in the water to chase the seals away from their nets. And they were called seal controls.
Wow.
So, but I didn't like that business. It was too dangerous.
No,
And besides that, I wanted to do something that made people happy instead of, war stuff. So I left that and went back to school.
And you decided on wine.
I decided on wine. I wanted to be a winemaker. I thought that, but I have a little background in chemistry. And so, I just wanted to get in the wine business. And so I got into the master's degree program at UC Davis.
So you were like Tony Stark. You were Tony Stark. You were Tony Stark of Iron Man, making explosives.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't done that much of it in a long time.
My God, that's impressive. That's impressive. Holy cow.
I know, right? We don't want to get too on our bad side.
Yeah, we swear we'll get back to wine. But I mean, my goodness.
I got into it because I was putting my way through schools, and my father,
what was you going to school for?
I went to school for chemical engineering. See?
No, your wife.
Oh, I'm sorry. What, Laura?
Your wife.
Laura became an accountant, and that's how she put us all through. Everything. So, yeah, she was our source of income for our family for a while. Now we split the job.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Deb.
So what else can I tell you about? I think that when you get into these grape varieties and in their uniqueness, it's really interesting to wonder how how nature came up with these things, and when you think about it, there's really only one explanation, that the plant wants to be successful, right? So it could reproduce itself. And so evolution would then select the individuals who are most successful in reproducing the plant. And that involves somebody having to eat the berries. Maybe it would be a bear or a human or whatever. And so the berries that tasted the most interesting to the eater were the ones that survived. And so you have there's mutations and stuff over time, and new things appear. And at some point, nature created this grape that tasted like oranges and apricots, and it was somewhere maybe in this part of Italy, Colli Ugani, and people there selected this grape from other grapes because they liked the taste, and there we have it.
So it seems to be that both Italy and France both claim that they're kind of the birthplace of it, but are they the birthplace of two different varieties? Who do you think is the birthplace?
Well, I think it's most likely that the Orange Muscat came from Italy.
Okay.
It's not really grown in France. So, but the Moscato Bianco is grown in France, and it's called Muscat Blanc there. And so it's grown in both places, and it has a lot of big fans in both countries that make great wines from it. And there's also a few growers in both countries that use the Muscat of Alexandria too.
Okay. Yes, that that seems to be more common in Italy. No, the Muscat d'Alexandria.
Yeah, you see it in southern Italy.
Southern.
In northern Italy, it's very frowned upon. I frown upon it.
Isn't that there's a DO? Isn't the Moscato d'Alexandria? There's a DOC that's specific to that grape variety in southern Italy? So it's kind of right. It's revered there, right?
It's called is it called the Zazebo? I think it's called the Zazebo or something like that in southern Italy.
Okay. I just kind of in the back of my brain, Debbie, I remember, I think you were with me. We were at in El Gato, the cat, the thing in New York City that was the Moscato DOCG, right? It's a G.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So how did you fall in love? I mean, was it just that it showed up there and you made it at UC Davis? So you're like, okay, I kind of know this grape, but making wine, but becoming passionate about it are two completely different things.
In California, our wine industry was created by immigrants from Italy who brought grapes from their country here. And that's there's just a really very few French guys came. Most of them were Italian. And so somebody must have brought this Orange Muscat here. But the immigrants didn't know, usually the grapes are so local, that they didn't realize that they had a certain name and they would just call it the Muscat, right? And but when it turned out that the Muscat that somebody brought here tasted a lot different from the Muscats that other people brought, the guy that they came up with this name of Orange Muscat. And so the one that was orangey tasting got that name. The other ones were just called, they were called Muscat Canelli, maybe because somebody came from Canelli, a part of the area in Asti area where
that's it, Asti. That's it. That's the DOCG. That's it.
That's what you were looking for?
Yes. Yes.
So Asti's in Italy, right? And we got it Asti in California, and of course it's Italians all over the place doing and all of them are making wine and calling the grape whatever it was called where they came from. So somebody must have come from Canelli. That's why we call it Muscat Canelli here. So, but the guy from Orange, who came from the Colli Ugani, he didn't know what to call his Muscat. But when people tasted it, they said it tasted like orange, so it got this name Orange Muscat. Yet it was only about, I'd say about 10 or 15 years ago when these grape genetic experts, people who could understand or compare the DNA in different plants to see if it was similar, they figured out that this was the same grape as the one growing in the Colli Ugani. Isn't that neat? And they'd already decided to call it Orange Muscat. And in Italy, it's called the Moscato Fior d'Arancio, Muscat of the orange blossom.
So do we know the DNA of the Orange Muscat?
Well, somebody must have, because they determined it was the same as the one in Italy, see?
Okay. So this is my first experience with Orange Muscat. So what can I expect when I take a sip of it? I've already taken a sip, but for people that don't have the wine, what can they expect? And is it always made as a dessert wine? Can it be made dry? Can it be made sparkling?
It doesn't make a very well in Colli Ugani. They do make it a sparkling sweet wine. That's for the weddings. I don't think it makes a very good dry wine because this variety has a very high tannin level. In fact, there was an article, I can't remember where I saw this, it was some years ago, but it was an Italian chemistry person determined that the Orange Muscat grape, or what they call the Moscato Fior d'Arancio, has the highest tannin or phenolic compound of any white grape. And it's actually even higher in phenolics than many red grapes. So if you want to make it into a dry wine without sweetness, you're going to be stuck with some bitterness that you may not enjoy. And but in the these phenolics also result in this orange color. You might be able to pick up in your tasting, you might be able to pick up a certain texture or maybe even a little bit of bitterness in there that's coming from this grape. Very unusual to have that.
A little bit,
yeah.
Just a little bit. It's smooth. It's very orangey. It's a nice dessert wine. It's very.
What's the alcohol on it?
We make it at 15.
15.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's I learned.
Yeah.
I learned about this when I was studying viticulture and enology at Davis. If the wine has a certain amount of alcohol and also a certain level of sweetness, the osmotic pressure on the yeast is such that the yeast can't live. So you can make a sweet wine if you have enough alcohol in combination with the sugar, that you can then have a sweet wine that won't ferment. Well, you don't have to worry about it fermenting, see? So you can age it in French oak or something, like they do Sauterne. So Sauterne is the same thing. But let's say this wine had only 5%.
But no botrytis. But no.
It has no botrytis. No.
Okay.
Botrytis is another way of making sweet wines also, right? But the way this wine, the method that we'd use is just by, after it's fermented a little bit, we adjust the alcohol up to 15% by adding wine spirit. And have you ever heard of the Muscat Baume de Venise? Anybody?
I have not, no.
Well, the Baume de Venise is also made the same way. They use the Muscat Blanc, and they add the alcohol and bring it up to 15%. And it's a delicious wine. It sort of reminds you of peaches, and it's it's available in that part of the southern Rhone region. Is where they grow a lot of these muscats, and they make this Baume de Venise. And my wife and I, we were there after I graduated. We did a little trip to Europe and looking for interesting things. And in that part of France, we discovered this wine being served at a restaurant where it was accompanied. It was a little like one of those places where they give you 3 courses for lunch, a prefix lunch, and with the dessert you got a glass of this wine, and they had a little cake that it went with it, and the wine smelled and like peaches and stuff, and it was just wonderful. Really a gastronomic experience. And so that was part of my thinking when I did the Essentia wine. See, is that people would use it as a dessert accompaniment, and they would be able to enjoy it in a gastronomic way. And it did actually acquire a lot of fans for that. That it got into a bunch of nice restaurants and still in some of them.
So Andrew,
we have a question.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this person, but hi, Bob.
I know Bob.
Oh, okay.
I know Bob.
Knows Bob.
And Bob said he's been enjoying Quady Muscat for over 25 years. I've always been impressed by the consistent quality year to year. Curious as to whether Andrew has specific years that were better than others in bottling the Muscat.
Well, Bob, I don't think that this is a very good Muscat to age. It seems like you age it and it gets darker and darker. Eventually, after like about 10 years, it starts to look like tea or something. And those, it's because of all those phenolics in there that are sort of out of control. But yes, it does. And I'm not sure which years are better than others, but what you have to do is you have to get the grapes really ripe. And the grapes develop these aroma characteristics and the flavor according to how ripe they get. See, so if we have a minimum maturity, we won't accept them unless they're at least 23% sugar on the vine.
Oh.
Okay, so it's got to be 23 bricks before you.
All right, that's not
not
out of control. So so I did a little research, and it says that it is thought that the parents of Orange Muscat is Muscat Blanc à Petit Grains and Chastelet. I don't know how to say that correctly, but that sounds right.
Chasselas. Yeah. Chasselas is one of the, the parents are, they figured that out. And isn't that weird? Because Chasselas is a Swiss variety and it's very bland. It doesn't hardly taste like anything. And of course, the other parent is the Muscat Blanc. And so how in the devil did crossing these two things make an orange taste? Who knows? But that's what I remember that also.
And
and of course, so that sort of blows my theory that this was something that happened in nature and people discovered it because maybe it was a nurseryman or something.
It didn't say it. It didn't say that it wasn't a natural cross. I assumed it was a natural cross.
You know what? That's right. Who would want to cross Chasselas with a Muscat Blanc anyway? Yeah.
Like,
so,
what would
Bob,
be the
Andrew,
purpose
I want
of
to
that?
tell you, Bob just said that it does age a bit well. He had many bottles from the early 2000s and opened some this year, a bit past its prime, but it held together.
There you go.
Well.
Thank you, Bob.
So there you go. And I've got a question. So I opened this bottle tonight, and how long will this keep in the fridge? Before it will go south?
I wouldn't worry about it. Actually, I would say put it in the fridge and don't forget about it. Drink it because it tastes really good and you're going to enjoy it and you're going to share it with people and stuff. But no, I think it could be in there for a month.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah, the holidays are coming, so I'm thinking Christmas Eve. This will be good dessert. Yeah.
Seems like the low temperatures of the refrigerator really slow down, any kind of oxidation reactions or anything like that. So, yeah.
Okay. And on the same lines, as I said, Christmas Eve, what would you pair with that would pair well with the Orange Muscat?
Well, you have a lot of choices. Sweet things. I would say a cake or something like that. Maybe an almond cake would be really good.
Okay.
A dessert should not be sweeter than the wine, though. That's sort of a good rule when you're working with sweet wines.
Yeah. So I'm making a cranberry upside down cake for Christmas Eve. I think this is going to taste nicely with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to.
Kevin says cheesecake. Yes, I can see cheesecake.
Okay.
Yep.
Cheesecake would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to that you add grape spirit to it. So you're making it kind of in like a sherry style. So can you walk us through your from harvest to bottle, basically how what you said that you do 23 bricks, but from there you bring it to the vineyard, you bring it to the winery. Are you pressing whole? Are you pressing right off the bat? Oh, well, you said that you have it on skins for 24 to 48 hours, right? Skin contact for 48. And then you press it off. And then take us from that step forward. How are you making this wine?
Okay, so what we'll do is after our, let's say a day and a half to 2 days of skin contact at a low temperature, we'll chill this. When the grapes come in, we run them through a heat exchanger as well as a crusher stemmer, and bring the temperature down.
Okay.
And then it goes into a tank which is jacketed, which have glycol running through the jackets to try to bring the temperature down, because we don't want it to take off and start fermenting, see. So it's going to ferment a little bit anyway, but so, and then maybe we'll give it a few hours of skin contact after we've added the wine spirits. And then you press it. Then at that point, if you maybe then have to adjust that alcohol up again to get her a little closer to 15, maybe it'll be like, get it up to about 13, 14, something like that. And then I put it in French oak for about 6-8 months, and then it's bottled.
So wait, I might have missed something. You're fermenting it to dryness?
No, it's not dry. No, it's maybe getting about at the most a couple percent alcohol. That's all in fermentation. Maybe 3, 4 at the most, and then we add the alcohol. So you're stopping fermentation by temperature? No, but the alcohol.
Oh, by adding the alcohol. Okay.
There's a you have to maybe look this up. It's sort of a winemaker. There was an Italian scientist named Delhi, and he figured that everybody knew that if you had a wine that was really, really sweet, like a Sauterne, okay, it won't ferment. And that's because it's too sweet. And the yeast can't handle all that sweetness. It's too much osmotic pressure. But if the sugar got low enough, let's say the sugar was like 5, 6, 7% sugar, the yeast just go to town, and they're going to convert that wine they're going to make alcohol out of it. Or like if you have fresh grapes could be 23 bricks, right? 25 bricks. Without any alcohol, they'll start to ferment. Okay. And they'll ferment to dryness too, because the alcohol is going up, but at the same time, the sweetness is dropping. Now, if you take that 23% grape juice and you add enough alcohol so that the deli units, which is the combination of the alcohol times some number plus the sugar, exceed a certain number, I think it's something like 80 or something like that,
they die off.
Then the yeast can't ferment it. And you can make a wine without having to have super ripe grapes. So like, Sauterne is made from botrytis affected grapes. And what happens there is that the botrytis attacks the skin of the grape, and the grapes shrivel up and they lose all their moisture, a lot of moisture. And so when they crush them, they get like 60, 70 bricks. And if they get that started, they get that fermenting. And what'll happen is when the alcohol, it gets somewhere around 12 to 13% or somewhere in that range, it'll stick. Yeah, because the yeast have too much alcohol and still so much sugar in there, it'll stick. And that's the same principle of the deli units. Okay. So that's the way that wine is made. So all these sort of wines that were made in without using sterile filtration were made based on this principle of the deli units. So the other way you can make sweet wines is you can just filter all the yeast out. You have to have a real careful, filtration apparatus that has very fine pores, and it takes a lot of filtration. You have to maybe filter several times to get all those yeast out. And then you bottle it under
at $125 a filter.
Yeah, you bottle under sterile conditions And that's the way a lot of the German sweet wines are produced.
So when you're saying deli, so I can look this up because I'm intrigued. Is it deli DEHLI or DELI?
I think it's spelled DELI unit, deli.
Okay.
And it was named after a guy named Deli who was a enology professor or something.
And so when you're saying you're looking for the Orange Muscat to get to 23 bricks, so lots of time, like different varieties, as they go through different bricks levels, they're ripening at different levels for the different sugars. What would happen to that grape if you picked it at 21 or you picked it at like 25 or 26? Are those flavors that you're looking for going to change? Like Cabernet Franc, which we specialize in, Cabernet Franc flavors start to change. As it ripens, it changes what's going on in there. So does that, if you picked it at 21, would you get a different profile than if you picked it at 23 or 25?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, at 21, that all fruit there's a certain, for any particular fruit, there's sort of a sugar level where it's ripe. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing thing about the variety, the grape variety, Vitis vinifera, is vinifera means wine making. And Vitis vinifera is one of the very few fruits that will get up to 23 bricks or 24 bricks. And but if you could get it up to about 22 bricks, 22 and a half or something like that, you can make a wine with 12% alcohol.
Right.
Which is reasonably stable and is a very nice level of alcohol for enjoyment. And your wine is not going to go ferment on you if you keep it airtight in the bottle. So we're really lucky that this plant evolved that way.
Okay.
So because like apple wine, no way. Plums, no way. See,
different.
Cherries, no way. They can't get that right. The only way you could do it is you could do it by dehydrating.
Bob, how he got introduced to your wine. He was in London back in the 90s and was in a pub called PJ's. And on the menu was your Orange Muscat. And he knew it was from California. He never tried it. So he ordered a glass and it was spectacular. And once he came back into the States, he searched it out.
Well, that's
Where do you live?
I love that.
He lives in Jersey. He lives not too far from where you are.
Oh, okay.
In the UK now, it is a really pretty good market for our wines, and we sell a bunch of our sweet wines there. There's a wine called Elysium, actually, that outsells the Essentia. And we're in, very, very nice restaurants, the Ritz Hotel, Spago.
Very nice.
Where we were in Spago.
Spago, nice.
Let's see, in London. Oh, what's that restaurant? The Ritz. There's another fancy hotel. I'll think of it in a minute. But in any case, yeah. So and in the Netherlands too.
I want to geek a bit. I want to geek back again. So when you're processing, are you destemming whole cluster? Like what? I'm thinking if you're I'm going down this rabbit hole, and Debbie, you can tell me to shut up. But I like
the rabbit hole.
I'm like, my brain is like on overload right now. So you're talking about potential bitterness within the Orange Muscat. So I'm thinking you want to destem it, but I don't know. This is like such an.
Oh yeah, we use a crusher. We use a destemmered crusher, so it destems.
Okay.
And gets the stems out. Yeah, there's nothing but crummy stemmy taste in stems. You don't want to have stems in your wine usually. So especially if they're sort of on the green side, if they're dry and brittle, it's not so bad. But
okay. And when are you typically harvesting? Like, is Orange Muscat an early ripener? Like, when is it? So it's early. Okay.
Yeah, we pick it in August, late August, usually last week in August, or even early in August. Well, we're hot here in Madeira. We have summer comes fast and things ripen up. In a good year, we're all done with the Muscat by the end of August.
Okay, and this vintage also 2023.
23 was a late vintage.
That's okay.
We had all that rain and it was cool, and there was a huge crop, and so it took. We didn't really pick anything in August. Everything came in like mid-September.
Is it susceptible to disease pressure?
It's Orange Muscat has a fairly loose cluster, so you have a reasonably good fighting chance of being able to control the mildew. But the other one, Muscat Canelli or the Moscato Bianco, that's the one that they have in Italy and France. That one has a tight cluster, and it's really hard for the growers to get it really ripe. It'll start to they got to be careful they don't water too much, because the berries will pop, and then you get bunch rot inside the bunches and stuff. The third one we use is the black skin Muscat, the Muscat Hamburg, and it's an easy one to grow. It's loose bunch, but we have to do a lot of fooling around with the black Muscat to get that rose smell. Okay. We have a minimum bricks on black Muscat of 25, and then we have them go through the vineyard and thin the bunches. They have to cane prune, and then they have to organize the canes so that the bunches are so many inches apart on the cane, so that they get a lot of air and stuff. And
are they larger clusters?
Yeah, big. They can be. They can be really big, and so you don't want to, give them too much water. You don't want to give them too much fertilizer. Otherwise, they'll just be big balls of water and won't have that nice rose smell.
And what about the soil? Are they all in the same soil type? What is the soil type there?
And also elevation.
We're about 200, 300 feet above sea level here in Madeira, and our vineyard that we have a little 10-acre vineyard of our own, and it has everything going from heavy clay to sand in that vineyard, and everything is its own little challenge. The sandy stuff, the vines are always running out of water because the sand doesn't hold any water, and then in the heavy clay, you got to be careful you don't overwater them, because they'll, so
holds it.
Yeah.
So what would be the ideal soil that the Orange Muscat would grow in?
I'd say it's somewhere between sand and heavy clay.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
You're gonna have to mix the soils and redistribute.
That's what we should have done. We should have had some big bulldozers out here before we planted, and spent a lot of time mixing out all the soil in the vineyard so it's all the same. But it's too stupid. We didn't do that. Actually, I was suggested to do that by another farmer who lives down the road, and he said, you got this sand here and you got this heavy clay there, and then why don't you just get some big boulders and mix it all up? Yeah. I thought, that'll cost money. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
that costs a lot of money.
Right.
So the how old are your vines?
Well, okay, the vineyard was put in the early 80s.
Okay.
And actually, I grafted. We had Chenin Blanc in there, and I had that graft over to Orange Muscat. But then the vines didn't last. I mean, there's some root diseases and stuff, I guess. And we ended up having to graft the whole thing over to Freedom. Actually, we didn't graft it over. What we did is we planted little grapevines in between these old grapevines that got really old after a while, and then they didn't produce much. And so now we got a vineyard that, if anything, it produces too much. But in any case, it's yeah. So it was planted then, and I don't think there's too many of the vines left that were planted in the early 80s.
Okay. And so as it's growing, you said that it can grow a lot. So are you green dropping? What is your management system? What is your canopy? Does it, I mean, it's so hot there. It's so sunny. So,
okay,
so like
we have, there's a couple of different vineyards. Our vineyard that we have is spur pruned. And but most of all the other ones where we have growers that are under long-term contract with us, and we have a sort of a farming guy that manages these vineyards, and we've developed over the years the best practices for each of the three varieties. So the Canelli, the Muscat Canelli, and the Muscat Hamburg, that's the black skinned one, are all grown with cane pruning. Mm-hmm. And with the cane pruning, you can take these long canes, and you can place them where you want them. Right. So horizontally and vertically, right? And maybe each vine, if it's a vigorous vine, there'll be 4 canes. So there'll be at different elevations, and it'll be in that way. And then you get then when the clusters appear, it's quite easy to go in there and pull out the extra clusters, so you get the correct number of clusters on each cane. And so that's what we do. Okay. And so the advantage of that is to not overcrop, and to allow plenty of access to the bunches, so you can, if you need to apply a mildewcide or something, sulfur, control mildew, it's easy to get them, get everything on the bunches. And also the flavor's better if they get some light. You don't want them covered up by thick canopy, so you could go in and remove some leaves to give them some light. So that's the way we have our main growers do it. Our little vineyard is still stuck on this spur pruning. And so we just have to live with it.
Andrew, how do you see the role of Orange Muscat evolving in a broader context within the wine industry?
Well, you know what? I think sometimes maybe some of it is getting mixed in small quantities into Chardonnay, for example.
Really?
Chardonnay, to add a little interesting floral character. That's what I see.
Wow,
take the place of Viognier.
Also,
That's interesting.
I could tell you this. We also make a 4.5% alcohol sweet wine out of Orange Muscat.
Oh.
Yeah, it's called
Electra.
It's called Electra, and it's we just arrest the fermentation, and we sterile filter it, and then you get a 4.5% alcohol wine with 14-15% sugar. And so it's a whole different experience. But the Italians with Moscato, that's what they do in Asti, right? That's all this Moscato d'Asti wine is 5% alcohol. And the way they do that is exactly how we make our Electra.
So how much sugar is in the Essentia?
It's about 15, I think.
Okay.
So 15 alcohol and 15 residual sugar.
Yep, it's balanced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait to try it.
And then add the dessert on top of that, and you're really on a sugar high.
Yeah, right?
That's right. Yeah.
A little creme brulee, a little cheesecake, a little wine.
Yeah. So, Andrew, I want to thank you for coming on. We always try to keep people to like an hour so that we don't, we know your time is valuable. But how can people find Quady Winery? Bob apparently knows. So, but besides Bob, how can people find you? And I've already invited Bob to come visit me in Fresno so that we can come and visit you. So first of all, are you on the Madera Trail?
Yes, we are. But you can very easily find us. Just go to our website. I think our tasting room is open. What is our
Wednesday through Saturday?
Wednesday through Saturday. And so yeah.
And if we aren't in the Central Valley, you ship. I'm guessing since Bob is in New Jersey.
Well, he also is in New York too. So
QuadyWinery.com is our name for our winery, and you can go to the QuadyWinery.com and you can order that way too. You can also find Essentia is I think they should be in most of the Total Wine and Spirits stores.
Okay.
So what is your production?
We're about 150,000 cases, something like that.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So, so when I get a free time, maybe on Wednesday, because that's the day I'm not open, I'm going to have to come up and try to visit you in person and go through your lineup. Because I think you're only like 20 minutes from me.
Are you in Fresno then? Yeah,
I'm in Fresno, close to I'm northwest, like by Clovis.
Mm-hmm.
So not far from you.
About a half hour, 25 minutes or something. Yeah.
All right. I will reach out for a Wednesday.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for
joining us. What kind of grapes do you do? What are you growing? Syrah? Did you say in Peso?
No. We are Cab Franc people.
Oh, Cab Franc.
We do Cab Franc, Chenin Blanc. Our rosé is Grenache Tempranillo, but we are Cab Franc. Mm-hmm. That is what we do. But so I will reach out. Yay! I will bring a bottle when I come to visit. And we are typically closed on Wednesday, so I can come visit you on a Wednesday. But I want to just make sure we didn't miss anything that you want us to know about Quady Winery. I just, we talked about Orange Muscat, but I want to know if we missed anything about Quady so people can find you.
Well, you know what? Besides these Muscat wines, the one other thing that we have a lot of fun with is vermouth. And we make a craft vermouth called Via Vermouth.
I'll bring the vodka. We'll have martinis.
Mm-hmm. We make a little bit of sherry, actually.
Okay.
There's a gal in Fresno that we've been buying her biodynamically grown Palomino Fino grapes, which we make into a Amontillado style of sherry.
There's Palomino Fino in Fresno?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk offline here. We're going to talk offline.
Yeah.
We have one last question. Yeah. Bob would like to know what is the production ratio approximately of your 750 versus 350?
375.
Actually 375. Yeah, sorry.
I think we're probably close to even on those in the Essenzias. And actually, you know what? We don't sell. we make about 1,000 or 1,200, maybe up to 2,000 sometimes of each size, measured in 9-liter cases. So our customers in England, in the British Isles and in Ireland, they buy almost all the half bottles.
Okay.
They don't want to buy any 750s. And then in the Netherlands, they buy almost all 750s, no half bottles. Can you believe it? And in America, it's mostly 750s.
Okay.
So, funny thing, huh?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all this Orange Muscat wisdom and history and everything with us. I've been really, I mean, it's my first time with the grape, and I've learned so much, and I really like it. It's really nice.
And
Thank
I
you,
cannot
ladies.
wait. It is sitting in Fresno for me to try, so I cannot wait to give it a try. But I definitely will reach out, Chloe, if you're still there. I will send an
Chloe's
email
here.
and find a date that we can get up there, and I will come. I would love to see the facility and do a little bit more research into the Orange Muscat.
Okay. Well, I mean, we got a big vineyard of it right next to the house, and on the other side of the house is our winery. So we're surrounded by vines and wines.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank
you
you
so much for sharing all of your Orange Muscat passion, wisdom, and thank you so much. Slancha.
Yeah. Cheers.
Well, thank you for making me part of the letter O today.
Yay!
And happy holidays. Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Happy New
Have
Year.
a wonderful night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.